Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live, the lab. We're combining one of the Deanna Tubb-Sedillo background papers right here. I believe she executed that with probably pastels. I don't know if there's another medium in there. And that's this whole card right up here. And then that has been combined with this lower section here stamped on to a semi-gloss cardstock. Okay, I don't know the dimensions here, but it's about 9 by about 5.5. Okay, I think she sent me one that was 6 inches or something like that, or 5 3/4 wide. And I just trimmed off the side to match the width of this flower field here. So I trimmed off a little bit of like one side or another, probably a little bit of both, off her pre-printed, very cool designer background paper. All right, so anyways, I just got these papers in, I don't know, I think it was last week or something like that, but we're doing some tests, and this is the first one I'm testing out. I've used her other papers in the past and really love them. They're really fun to utilize, and Deanna has a really strong sense of, kind of the visceral, in combination with the visual. Okay, so her sensibilities really jive with mine in terms of creating kind of these kind of different moods in the scenes. Okay, and one of the things I was mentioning in my opening of her new background papers that are coming out. I'm not sure if this one is though. Okay, so but she's got a lot of other cool ones, right on the horizon. I think they're up for sale right now. But I was saying that they're just really versatile, and you can really do a lot of different things with them. You can certainly stamp on the, mostly I stamp directly onto the paper. I don't add this lower portion, but I've been experimenting with using photographs and doing these stamping mergers, as opposed to kind of what I think of in terms of photo stamping, that's stamping directly on tops of photographs. So photographs are backgrounds already, and these papers are existing backgrounds. So just a lot of fun to utilize, and you can really do a lot of quick pieces on them because the background is already established in here. So, but what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of testing out some additional ways to use them from probably what was really they were conceived to be used mostly for, and that's just, a card in itself. Hello, Linda. Okay, I'm going to try to do this one really fast, Linda, here. But if you need to go, good to see you. I'm always coming on like everyone's like dinner time. My son had a big snack when he got home, so it's like, I don't think we're eating for a while. All right, and while I still had this set out with the flower field, I thought, I'm going to use it again. We're a little bit, okay, so we're a little bit out of scale with this. This guy, this little farmer probably should be up here, walking amongst the rows there, but he would have been largely kind of obscured a little bit unless I stamped it out a little bit lighter in here, because he would have been in all that pattern. But that being said, I just wanted to have a piece roughly around this size right here. And so I flanked it with these pines here. So not so much like a, Dutch, Holland, Netherlands type of scene like yesterday, but more of, I don't know, maybe, somewhere domestically, or I'm trying to think of that area in Washington State where they grow, I think they're known for a lot of lavender there. Something Valley, right? It's not Skagit Valley. That's somewhere else. I can't remember. But anyways, we have the pines right here. It's not too different than some, like my hometown. There were pine trees around there, but they were probably planted by, the farmers on some farms, stuff like that. All right. So filling in, it's going to be largely a, monochromatic kind of tone to the scene. I don't know if it's like dusk or dawn or something like that. But I'm going to try to create, kind of some sort of, kind of just a mellow mood to this piece. I think it lends itself to that, to Deanna's background up there. So I'm going to try to match this bottom portion tonally, visually tonally, visually in terms of tone, but also the emotional tone of the piece. All right, so I'm laying down pink here. Hello, Cecile, how are you? All right. Like that. I'm going to try to kind of put this little character down here in a little bit of a kind of like a soft light or like a spotlight type of thing situation. Not real harsh though, kind of real soft again. Oh, your screensaver's, your computer's spying on you, Linda. Which I'm pretty sure, I don't know, my computers are too, because, we'll be watching something, or I forget what it was. There was a couple of things, and then it's like you see things like popping up on screen, like the ads that are showing on screen in like these streaming services. It might have something to do with like, something that I was talking about or looking for on another computer, and then we'll see something like that pop up. It's like, hey, we were just talking about that. So I don't know. It's like targeted advertising, though, which I don't know. Sometimes I'm like thinking, well, it's a more pertinent type of ad than just some kind of general one. But, if you didn't kind of opt in for that type of surveillance, I can't think that's like terribly good. All right, leaving a little bit of lightness in here amongst the coloring, okay? And that makes this kind of a little bit more varied, and that's what we're going after. We don't want it to be all kind of monochromatic, and we don't want it mono value. That's the thing. You can have monochromatic, but don't make it mono value, okay? Vary your values, and it doesn't have to be like a 0 to 100 or something like that, like super white and all the way black or something like that. But, have a good range in there of tones, just in general. Or start off with that. I mean, you could kind of increase the values and change things around, as you see fit. But it's usually better to kind of have a little bit more of a range so that you can make your decisions. I'm saying that as opposed to like filling in this whole thing and then kind of being stuck, in terms of, getting a wider value range. Okay. Now there's other things we can do. We can add in lighter tones back into it with the paint pens, but it's kind of, it's always better to kind of be in control of that from the start, so that you have to do less things to kind of remedy undesirable whatever traits of it, which I do all the time, but I want to kind of minimize them. Okay, here's a little bit of this warm, almost white, kind of tan color right here. And that'll just kind of warm things up a touch in here, and we might as well add some of that warmth into our beds as well. I don't think it's going to do a darn thing in that barn, so I won't bother with that. The barn area, I mean, it was stamped in this area down here. There's a reason why I didn't have this like reversed, and this be the darker portion down here, and this be the lighter. It's because this barn wouldn't stand out against this very much. Now, if I did do that for some sort of reason, I wanted to make this barn look really ominous and it's in darkness or something like that, I would have had to color this in really dark after stamping it in here, just to give it a little bit more visual weight. But since this is against something that's lighter, now you see some of those tones that are inherent in the paper are showing through down here. So I'll kind of blend this in a little bit more, with some additional coloring on here. So anyway, AI, yeah, it's probably that. It's probably some sort of, thing like that. Well, I guess you'll know if it starts happening a lot. You'll get these, maybe like a travel, if you get this travel type of thing to visit Washington and those lavender fields in, I don't know, the next couple days. Something's up. Okay, going with some violets right here. So it's the kind of the violets that's kind of up here. We'll put it on the side of this barn here. I don't want to make it too dark, but we'll bring some of this into the side of the barn. In this case, this barn is, it's being backlit with this post, sunset horizon kind of thing. So in theory, on location, this barn would be kind of darker on this side. But we don't have to do that, though. I mean, that's just kind of one way to approach it. This barn could also be like a stage, I'm always saying, and you have this area being illuminated by your spotlights in your theater, so it's like a stage as opposed to someplace in real life where you have to abide by, I don't know, whatever, not necessarily the laws of nature, but I don't know, the general kind of, I don't know, lighting convention, I guess. Okay, what happened to my black colored pencil? Here's one. I went and just sharpened my other black colored pencil. I think I left it over there. You would think I would keep, someone like me would keep a colored pencil sharpener kind of within my room, which I guess I should. I don't have to sharpen my colored pencils too often, though. All right, see this area right here on the side. When you have like different volumes and sides of an object, and you want to make it three-dimensional, don't make like this side as dark as this side. Have them two different values, and preferably two with this top portion right here. So, it really gives the appearance of something of being a lot more dimensional that way. Okay. All right. So here's black here. Let's go back to some other tones here. Let's start moving into a little bit of this pink here, I think. When I was a kid, the cotton fields resembled the flower field. It was in black and white, far from the beauty seen with the flower colors. That sounds pretty cool. I do want to do something like that. I was thinking about that on this one, Cecile. I was thinking if I was doing this at night, I need these objects in here to be more, you know, illuminated, like white. So I had thought about something like that. I want to do these areas in here like really light, like on a night scene, and do it. I mean, this could almost be night too. I was thinking about putting a moon up here. But then I'd want this illumination to be happening right down in here. So like a cotton field or something like that, you know, with illuminated, you know, white down in there would be pretty interesting, I think. All right, at that. Hello, Bonnie. How are you? Okay, that is that. Let's go on to the violet. Let's see, I need to make a decision here. Maybe I'll do this whole area in here kind of lighter. I can do it more in the distance. That's my general kind of thing, you know? Maybe front and back or something. I'm not sure. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll just use a little bit more of this violet on right around here, maybe. Let's see how it goes. Can't believe it's already Thursday. These weeks are really flying by. A little bit of row definition going in the kind of darker area in between the rows like this. I feel like I'm starting to get to like a super saturation with this pencil on here. This, I don't know, this purple right here is, I think it's hard to, it's not really a very soft wax on the, or color. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, this purple's going on to this barn really well. This paper might have a little bit more tooth. I think it's matte, and this is semi-gloss. And I've already gone over it with some of those lighter tones in here, so this is like not applying very much right in here. But it's giving me a little bit of a head start, though, before I use the alcohol inks. So that's good. All right. All right, let's see. Yeah, a little bit of tone in here. It's like a really pale violet, I think. Are you doing it on glow in the dark? No, this is just matte cardstock. Here, Bonnie. We should, though. I need to get another pack, though. I'll have to order another pack of my glow-in-the-dark paper. I have one sheet left. You know, I could use it for that, but I was going to do something else with that glow paper, though. Well, like I said, I need to buy another pack of it anyway. if you ever get it, get the printable variety. I think there's, I don't know, there's about 3 sellers of the glow-in-the-dark printable vinyl on Amazon US, and maybe 4. And I don't know, the Giravinyl, I don't know how you pronounce it. That one still seems to be the best price. The price per sheet, at least. All right, a little bit of that magenta tone. It's like that color right there, I think. All right. I think it's time for the markers. I'm coloring this one. I wanted to go along much faster this time than this one yesterday. But this one yesterday, I was, I hadn't stamped this one out in a while. I wanted to go for some really bright tones. So I thought, oh, this one, let's just go for this kind of real mellow kind of, I don't know, whatever. It's like a very, I wouldn't call it melancholy, but I don't know, maybe in comparison to the other one, or in contrast to it. But just kind of a real kind of still, quiet moment. Kind of in the spirit of Deanna's sky here. Or one interpretation of it, at least. Someone else might see this and, think, it's exhilarating or something like that. All right, so kind of going along on the perimeters right here. I went in the interior a little bit with this color right here, okay? But we'll bring it down in here. That's a big slathering of it. Okay, and let's see. There's there's that Copic kind of what was that class, or that I don't know if it's a series of classes that you have to certification. Anyone certified with like Copics and markers in terms of whatever proper usage is probably cringing. All right, so there's some of that. I need to get right down in here, but let's see. Let's go with this. Okay, here we go. Here's a little bit of a warmer tone. I'm dragging some of that black in here. I think when did I stamp this one out in? I think I stamped out my foreground in the hybrid ink. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do that. Because the hybrid ink has that, a little bit of the oil-based pigment, okay? And then taking an alcohol pen into the oil pigment ink in there, it's probably not a good idea. It probably puts the if you spend enough time in there and if your pen's wet enough, it might be putting the that oil pigment back into solution and then thus dragging and smearing it around a little bit. Okay, 49.29. That was the Garavinyl, Linda. Garavinyl. I think here it's 10 sheets. I think it's. I need to take a look. I forget how much it was again. I checked recently, but I can't remember what it was. Ew, yeah. No, we're not doing that one. We did that one down here, though. You can see that color right there. Which I'm going to have to do in that, yeah, that cherry blossom type of scenario. Ah, that one's really bright, too. I think I'm too chicken to use that on this one right here. It's a little bit too hot and not the kind of the spirit I'm going after. Okay, so let's try the violet here. Okay, ooh, that one's a little bit dark too. We'll kind of hit it in the shadow areas and I'll try to blend it out too. Now, who said that they also got it? Bonnie got some a few weeks back. Bonnie, have you tried it yet? I think I thought I saw something in one of the Facebook posts with a moon, and I had wondered if it was a glow in the dark because it kind of looked like that glow in the dark tone. I wasn't quite sure though. I can't remember who did it. I don't know. I think it was posted like something was posted like last night or today or something like that. I think. All right, there's some of those violets. That got a little bit darker than what I thought, so I'm going to come back in and add more pink in here just to make some of the other elements in here a little bit darker and brighter. And at the same time, we'll kind of blend some of those darker tones that were applied into the piece a little bit more. It's kind of this constant thing between kind of like pushing things a little bit, going a little bit too far, and then trying to bring it back, and then just kind of doing some blending, okay? But remember, we still have like, you know, I still have like 2 other things that I like to do on my pieces. So if things don't mix and blend with colored pencils, and I go to alcohol pens and I'm blending with that, and I kind of blend with it, and then it kind of goes out of whack, you know, and then I go back in with the acrylic markers, and then that kind of, you know, remedies, you know, some of those whatever rougher areas, you know what I mean? So all those things just kind of, each kind of step kind of remedies these kind of marks that happen. I wouldn't say by mistake, you know, they're all kind of part of the process, but kind of, you know, they remedy a lot of stuff going on. So in this case, you know, with the pens, I'm going darker. I go light to dark usually, and then I go back to the light again. Okay, and then I try to blend out some of the things that happen with the darker tones in there. Okay, and some of like it's like physically blending with it, or kind of putting it back in solution, but some of it is just making an area next to something that's dark a little bit darker, so that you know, if there's a really harsh mark in there that I don't like, it You can't see it as much. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Kind of using the side of the marker a little bit more here. That, and I lost my tan one here. All right. Does anyone see anything missing right here? I'll give you a hint. It goes like underneath our characters here. Which would be like a shadow. You know, you want to cast a shadow down there. So I'll probably go with something like a, you know, a gray or something like that. But I like to cast my shadows with colors from the color scheme first. Okay. So I'm adding it down like that, and then we'll kind of blend that. Is it blending it out or blending it in? I don't know, whatever. Blending it. And then let's try some gray. That's brown gray. Let me see if I have like a little bit of a darker, and then we'll go to black if need be. This gray right here, oh, this is really, well, this gray is kind of, it's making it lighter in there because it's dissolving that darker violet in there. Okay, let's see. Let's do, I'm going to do our character. I'm going to color our character like that. I just watched this video on YouTube. It's how they make like indigo ink, that color. And it was fascinating. I think it was a plant or something like that. And they let it ferment or something like that for a couple days. And they're adding like stuff into it. I think there was lye that went into this, like, it's like these big vats or things where they're amassing all this stuff, and then they're like cutting into it like loaves of like clay, you know, and you can see it. There's that indigo color. It was really pretty cool, you know, because I like that color too. But that was a video that just came up on my feed. Okay, so let's see. Let's add a little bit more texture. So a lot of that texturing was done with the Tiny Rocks small stamp. So we can go in there and kind of, you know, accentuate it, enhance it, I don't know, build upon it a little bit like that with color out of our color scheme. Now, I'm not really doing like little scumbling things to have pink on there, but I'm kind of going into that blue violet that was just added and kind of blending that in a little bit more. All right, and of the pens we'll use. And almost there with this. Do you watch any vids? I didn't watch the vids about the die. I didn't have time for that. But I did ask, I asked my wife, I said, hey, do you have some die cut machines? And she has that, what was it called? The big something. Was it called Big Shot or something like that? And then she was telling me about how the Cricut works too. And there was how she uses like certain machines to do her like embossing. That's what it was. It's like, oh, is that how you're doing those kind of raised things on your cards? And yeah, so she was telling me about that because I forgot about that, or I don't know. When when I see those cards that she makes, I don't know. Maybe some of them I didn't ask her about it or something like that. Because some of those cards that are made, she's like making it for me, so she does it like when I'm not around, so I don't see it. So I don't see it being made. But I was asking her about the scan and scan and cut, or what was that one, the other one? But I was asking her like why she didn't use one over the other, or she has a couple Cricut machines too. And I was saying, well, okay, so you had the two Cricut machines, so what's the difference between those two and the one that you didn't use? And she says, well, one of them doesn't require like an internet connection, and I think that was the one that came with a bunch of like cartridges, right? So she didn't use that one anymore. She uses that like Cricut, whatever it's called, Design Studio or something like that, where you go online and access kind of a large library of material. All right, so adding in these little textures in here, trying to get a little bit more sparkly kinesthetic pink and white. That pink in there is going to be a little bit wet still, so this white is going to merge with it, I'm sure. Yeah, there was that certification course, I think, with the Copics. I don't know if that was for just, it wasn't for usage because anyone can buy the pens, but maybe it was to certify so that you can teach it or something like that. Or was it a thing of you know, it's like, hey, I'm Copic certified or something like that. Just so something kind of cool to be able to say. I don't know what it was for, but I remember people doing that or whatever, getting certified somehow. I haven't heard it for a while. Okay, a little bit of shimmer like that. And remember this white here, as I've mentioned in other videos, it's not going to be that white. It's going to blend in with that background. I don't know. Hopefully we could still see it though. I don't want it to blend in so much where it's like invisible, but sometimes it happens. You put it over pink and it looks white, and then when it dries, it's like pink. It's probably a lighter version of just using straight pink, but sometimes it becomes really, really, it really moves towards transparency a lot at times. All right, so one of the things that I'm doing here too, we have a lot of open sky area, and I was going to put some stars up there, which maybe is still a good idea to do, but I'm going to put this quote right here, and then I'll matte this off in a, like a gold frame. But I really like this quote right here. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. And I thought it kind of went with this piece right here. Okay, so adding these little white little specks down here, I think that did it for me. I'm going to add some of this into my sky, a few little stars up here, because that'll really kind of match texturally. It'll create a stronger connection between this top portion and this bottom portion with all those little sparkly little kind of flowers down there. No, but it does really glow a lot. Isn't it great, Bonnie? It's like a super aggressive light retaining glow material. It's it's almost like the opposite of some of the like I have some paint and it does work, but I have to really kind of lay down like several coats of it in order to build it up. But that vinyl is just so thick. It seems like it has a lot of that, whatever it is, that coating on there that has that light retaining, those properties to it. So it's really fantastic. Yeah, because you don't want some kind of glow material. You don't want to be going through all that kind of effort in utilizing something or applying it. And then, if it's glowing material, you take it in the dark or you charge it up with light, and then it's like, you got like 5 seconds or 10 seconds of, it kind of showing, before it's, lost its whatever charge. All right, so there we got that right up there, like that. See, let's see if it still is visible. The Dr. Martens is pretty opaque though, so I have a feeling we'll still be able to see it after it dries. I got a little bit of a larger little dot right there, kind of inherent in the spray, what I usually like. I'm usually having to kind of add in those larger ones. This. All right, if anyone can name that constellation. We really don't have a prize, but you win. I'm just joking. I didn't. It's not a constellation that I know. Hello, Willie Nick. How are you? I was stunned when I learned where ivory black comes from. Never purchasing. Oh, is it? It's ivory then, right? Probably. Huh. Do they still sell that if that's what that's from? All right. Yeah, it matches a little bit better up here with the down here, doesn't it? I don't think I've ever we never used ivory black in school. I can only guess what where that's coming from though. If that's whatever the description of it and your comment on it. Purple is one of my favorite colors, and I love the way you do. Oh, glad you like the purple, Linda. That was my favorite color as a kid. It was purple. I don't know if it still is, but it's definitely. I love the cool kind of spectrum. I mean, I love warm tones too, but I just kind of gravitate more towards the cool most of the time. It's kind of funny. One of my best friends, I went through the illustration program with him, and he's all about like warm tones, So it's like on all of his pieces, it's like a lot of oranges and that whole spectrum. A lot of orange used in his paintings. For me, I'm more of like a cold individual. Cold-hearted. Okay, white pigment ink. Let's see what we can do with this, and let's see if it kind of adds to the, kind of the mood of the piece. We got, again, I've used some of Deanna's pieces before, and she really controls texture in her pieces a lot. As well as color and light and shadow and everything like that. But so like I said, a little bit of white pigment ink can go a really long way. So you have this area right down here, and just adding in a little bit of that texture like that can really change enhance whatever the spirit of the piece, okay, with soft light. And again, when you do this type of thing like this, it's adding that kind of that visually kinesthetic property into the piece, because what you're saying is that there's fog in there, so people can kind of feel the piece a little bit more. You know, everything is visual and two-dimensional, but it just feels a little bit more three-dimensional, and you know, there's more atmosphere to it. Let's see. Just don't, you know, just don't apply too much at any given time, and you know, you'll be set. All right, these rows right here. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but just kind of going in and adding in a little bit here and there, kind of within the rows, and it can change kind of that long, uniform line, you know, like, see right in here, just kind of, I mean, it's really subtle. Here, I'll put it in an area that's a little bit more apparent or obvious here. So, see this like long black line right here? These are little subtle things too. It doesn't make or break the piece. But something like that, you just put a little thing like that. The row is still there, but you got this little bit of a, you know, kind of a different texture in there, like that. And right over here, we'll soften up this a little bit. See this tree right here, where it goes into this line right here? Let me just put a little bit of a separation, like right there, okay? So it's not something that's going to be totally obvious, especially if you give this card to someone. But see that row right there? Now this tree kind of stands out a little bit more, so you've pushed the row back in space a little bit optically. Okay, see this like long horizon line right at the barn like that? Let's mask this off like this, okay? And I'll put in this little bit of, I don't know, fog right in here, maybe being illuminated by that opening in the barn, you know, opening into that background. So you can put a little bit like this here. It's just like very light at first. And through repetition, like that. See, look at that. That doesn't look like light's coming through that barn and kind of illuminating some kind of fog there on the, you know, rising from the ground or something like that. It's like, you know, we're putting like makeup on our scene, you know. Not like cold pack cream like a clown though. Which like everyone does, like in the beginning, because there's just a lot more ink on their, you know, their cotton ball than they think. It happens with me too. If I re-ink this pad or something like that, it's like, oh, that was a little bit too much. But then you just kind of, you know, you just wipe it off while it's still wet. Okay, see those trees like that, you know? It just kind of changes the spirit of it just a little bit or a lot. I think it gives it a little bit of a mood like that. It's like instant mood. All right. So that is that, I think. we'll get this, like I said, we'll get this kind of matted off, probably in a double mat. And then here, this is with the quote stamp right here. That splatter painting dries really fast, but I think right here, that, something like that. And I did just get a new can of 3M Super 77. And that's the spray adhesive I'll be using. When you got a card this big, I mean, you can use your tape rollers and things like that. But that, if you're making a lot of cards and mounting it, and this is like fairly large, you know, those spray adhesives are a pretty good way to go. And you just kind of lightly spray too, especially if it's like the more permanent style ones. Don't get like a spray adhesive that's like a repositionable one. Get one that's, you know, pretty aggressive, and then you can just, you know, you can even like spray the perimeter. You don't have to put a big slathering on the whole thing. You know, it's, you know, just a little bit. And, you know, it's a pretty aggressive glue. And I double mat this too. So, you know, you don't have to hit it like with a huge slathering of it too. Okay. And then you can like really extend the life of that can. You can get double the amount of cards, you know, out of one can. I wouldn't be surprised if I got 100 cards out of one can of spray adhesive. It's a little goopy to, you know, use. I usually get it on my fingers sometime, you know, when I'm picking up my piece and stuff like that. But, you know, it just comes right off. But, yeah. Glad you like it, Aaron. I like the way it came out, you know. So this whole piece right here, you know, this whole, you know, area from here on down, you know, started off with a white piece of paper with the images stamped on there. And, you know, I'm, you know, it's not a science or anything like that. I'm just trying to make things visual. And I'm just grabbing the things that I have on hand. If I didn't have them, that, you know, if I didn't have that pink right there, I'd use these ones right here. But I'm just kind of grabbing those colors that I think are roughly in here. You don't see pinks in here, but I just know that pink is a lighter form of like purple. You know, you can keep going darker pink, you know, and adding a little bit more blue to it or something like that. And I can get something like that color. And I figured like this color right here, it's a little bit more of a, what color is this? Purple. Looks almost like a magenta purple though. But see, that color was like that one up there. So I have these. And then I just grabbed a bunch of pens that I thought would be kind of roughly in the same tone as that up there, but in pen form. And you know, I just started off with these ones, doing kind of a lighter touch of that. And then I follow up with these right here. And then you don't have to go with like a full range because these are more like highlights right here, but there's like 1, 2, and 3 tones like that. So it's not going quite from thin to thick because, I don't know, maybe the way I'm using these pencils here, it's a little bit thin, but I start off with these because I know that if I lay my alcohol inks down first, those are just not going to apply on top of the alcohol. The alcohol is like too thick, and these pens are going to kind of seal off the surface. And then acrylic paint pens can be used on just about anything. In theory, you can use these types of pens like on like glass or plexiglass or something like that too. So, you know, kind of thicker paint. And you just put it right on top, and then I do this with it. So just cheap stuff too, you know. These pens right here, I don't know, they're like probably 30 cents each of these. I don't know, maybe 50. I think it was 50, you know, cents when I bought those. Copics are better, you know. I should probably buy it. There's a couple colors that I really like that are always drying out, and they're always like the really light, like jewel tone blues or something like that. I need to get a Copic marker for that one, you know, or like a couple of those colors, and then get a reinker for it. But, you know, there's certain colors that I don't use too often, like oranges and stuff. Warm tones. But those ones are fine to have in, for me, in those just cheap, multicolored packs out there. They don't have that nice, really brush tip. My La Plumes had them, but these ones are more of that little, that I forget what you call them. They call that a brush tip, but it's really not. It's just a fine and broad tip, so like chisel and that fine tip right there. But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty fun stuff. Pens, paint pens these days are like super, super cheap in those multicolored packs. Like they were cheaper than they were 2 or 3 years ago by a huge amount. So I don't know. It's like 25% of what I bought these the thin ones for. These days. So anyway. Oh, you're an earth sign, huh? Do you like real earthy versions of those colors, Bonnie? Like a like instead of a real bright green, do you like a more kind of mellow, earthy one? Kind of like the distressings are the ones that I always kind of think about when I think about more of like an earthy version of most hue, which is what I like about the distress inks a lot. They filled a niche, of colors that just weren't being offered a lot of times. Most ink companies were going for, like the brightest colors because they're the most attention getting. But Tim, Holtz, he added those kind of more aged looks to a range of colors, which I really liked. And he had, of course, like a lot of the lighter warm tones that I think that are really kind of. I don't know what people were using them for, if he was using them to color too, but they're really not good for stamping out imagery in them because they're just too light. But in terms of like base layer colors, if he was using it like that, or if that was the intention, that was really great. But the fact that they were out there is one of the things that I really like about those. And then, of course, like I said, like in these pens too, there's a lot of these colors of pens, or some colors at least, that I wish they had more of. Maybe if I get like a 180 color set or something like that, with one of those like stream huge sets, maybe they would be in there. But there's some tones that I wish were a little bit, more along the lines of those kind of more earthy versions of hue, as opposed to just like super bright ones and then just like 4 or 5 values of it. But they don't move into that kind of more earthy feel, And I wish there were some other colors. I don't know, maybe Copic's got them. Copic's got a gazillion things, but there were certain colors that I just don't want, or don't really need, because I don't use it too often. But when I need it, I wish I had it though. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, the distress inks. You have all the colors, so those ones really spoke to you, huh, Bonnie? Like even the yellow, has that kind of that little bit of an earthier look to it. Uh, and all other manufacturers with a yellow of that value range or that value level, they would all be like a canary yellow usually. So, anyways, that's where, these things too, when you start like dipping into this different media too, when you're using like a different range of things, you can get certain colors through combinations of them by like layering them. But for me, using all of the different versions of that, for me, it's just easier to kind of get kind of what I'm going after with the use of multimedia like that, because if I don't have it in colored pencils or I can't seem to get it in that, then I'll try to get it in alcohol inks. And then, if I do that and get some blending in there, or if I muck things up, going over it with this just remedies it. So, and then if that doesn't do it, the white pigment ink really helps out there too. So, It saves the day a lot of times in terms of that process. So you can cover it up. What these things are doing is, with each layer, I'm kind of covering up certain areas, right? So I'm subduing or covering something up. So by the time I get to the end thing, sometimes I add in kind of a white mist and something like that. And sometimes I go back to stamping, like right in here with these reeds here in the front. So it's like you stamp, you go through a range of multimedia, and sometimes you stamp over it again. If things got a little bit too murky with too much media, overworking things all together, then you just stamp something else right over the front of it, like a branch or, a craggy dark branch or something like that, and that becomes the remedy. So circular processes, going back and using other types of things over what you've already applied. And that's perfectly, scenic stamping is like perfect for that type of sentiment, because, you get all these layered and distant objects in a whatever in the scenery. I'd say out in the wilderness, but this isn't wilderness or something like that. But yeah. So this one wasn't happening for me, this composition. So I put these trees down here like that. And then I put those pines in the background like that. That kind of brought it all together a little bit more. Anyway, I want to thank Deanna for supplying these papers. I look forward to using a lot more of them going forward. This one's going to be really dynamic right here. This moon right here. I didn't know what to do with her large moons, but then I got kind of addicted to them after I did some different applications with them in different ways. I had them reflecting and reflection things. I was folding cards like this, making horizon cards, and having this as the ground and putting stuff up here. This one right here is interesting. Looks like water down here. Some kind of interesting horizon like that. Is that top and bottom, or is this top and bottom? I think the other way here, huh? And like this right here, like that. You can have some grassy slope or something like that, with some kind of silhouettes right in here. That'd be kind of interesting. I don't know. All these things are really fun to do. There's the one like that. Look at this one right here. So anyway, thanks for checking out the Purple Horizons card. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of evening. Hope to see you tomorrow.